So I am continuing the weathering on Wes's TOS. He wanted the vertical panel effect that you can see on the remastered series, so it's not too far from it. It's a little darker maybe in some places, but I think for scale purposes, I think it looks pretty good. So, little color variations here and there. So that's where we're at there. Continuing up the neck and just trying to lay out a grid pattern. And just going to be somewhat of a checkerboard effect going up the neck, with a bit more narrow panels than on the engineering hull. So yeah, it takes a while to do. If I knew how to do it, I would just create some decal sheets to mimic this and market it, but that's not my expertise, unfortunately. So yeah, basically the tools I use for this is just chalk, pastels, and those of you who are married, confiscate a very nice makeup brush from your wife. Something that's real animal hair. Don't use synthetic or a nylon. You want to use something that's really, really soft, and that will spread the pastel chalk really well. I find this works pretty good. And I go with a shade lighter and a shade darker than the hull color. And if I want it really lighter, then I'll go with some white to really bring out the panel detail a little bit more. So a little close up. Turns out pretty well, and in case you're wondering about windows, I make the windows last with a clear window maker. We all know about those, so I won't go into that.
Casualties, Mom. Has anyone died?
Yeah, so far so good. Now I just need to mimic this on the other side, but before that, I got to run this pylon. Haven't quite figured out the pattern for this yet. I'll have to watch a couple shows and see if there's any indication of paneling on those. I'm sure there are panels on there. If not, I'll put some.
Perfectly normal.
What happens when we die?
Okay, so I'm going to continue on with the
They're on the verge of answering. Doctors Holloway and Shaw, if you would please stand.
with the neck paneling here. It's probably going to be a little boring. This is not exciting at all.
The Titan Prometheus wanted to give mankind equal footing with the gods.
So I'll just scrape a little bit of chalk onto my little platform here with a razor blade. Simple as that.
Doctors, please.
And trying to find, oh, here we go. I don't really want to put masking tape to mark off the the edge, so I'll probably use a card or a piece of.
Okay. Let me show you why you guys are here.
Oh. Yeah, hang on just a second. I'm going to create a line over on this edge, and I'm not going to wrap it around the neck.
Sumerian, Babylonian. That's
I'm just
Hawaiian
gonna
at the end, and Mesopotamian. Now this one here's
bring it to the edge.
It's a 35,000-year-old cave painting from the Isle of Skye,
Right where it starts to
These are ancient civilizations.
curve.
They were separated by centuries. They shared no contact with one another, and yet the same pictogram showing men worshipping giant beings pointing to the stars was discovered
Well,
in every last one of them.
when you have fat fingers like I do, you need a pair of tweezers, and sometimes shit just doesn't work like you want
There's
it.
no way that these primitive, ancient civilizations could have possibly known about it. But it just so happens.
All right, I think I got that where I want it.
Has a
Just
sun,
trying to,
a lot like ours.
and the
this
angle is
is
different
seen
too
a planet.
than the
One planet
front
with a moon
part of the neck.
capable of sustaining life.
All right.
And we arrived there this morning.
Still trying to go over in my head here. I mean, this is
We're here because of a map. You two kids
there's no
found.
pattern. I mean, one thing you have to do is don't overdo it. Don't.
No.
The ship is gray.
An invitation.
You have to maintain the overall gray look of
We
the
call
ship.
them engineers.
Engineers.
And I even think that I might have got a couple of these a little bit dark, but I'm pretty happy with it. But you can't overdo it, and you gotta. What I did was I happen to have a spare kit, so I had a spare hull, and I just I repainted over it so I could test some other stuff. But I took this hull section and I experimented a little bit before I actually applied it to the ship. So highly recommend doing that. Even when you do work with pastels and you can just wipe it off, it's still a pain in the butt. It's better to get your color and your pattern in your mind on something before you start applying it to the actual ship. So, all right, so now I got to figure out my pattern here. Just like I said, it's probably going to be close to something that you would see on the refit. Just a slight checkerboard effect. Random.
Miss Vickers would like to have a quick
And sometimes I will use the airbrush
before the adventure begins.
if I want an overlapping color and not be transparent. But just for an example, I'm going to start here on the lower dorsal.
It's actually a separate module with its own
I'm just going to mask that in.
air, food.
Take my
Miss Vickers would need to survive a hostile environment.
awesome pastel applying
I do.
mechanism here.
Minimize risk.
Get a little chalk.
I need to make the doctor's address.
Make sure that that is straight.
Vodka.
Looks pretty good to me. And
It's appalling. What
I just dab it a little bit. Not too heavy. You don't want it to go under the masking tape.
Michelle,
Please verbally state the nature of your injury.
please don't touch
Get
that.
a little bit more.
It's a very
You just want a shade variation, and I'm not going to go lighter,
What do you need for?
or I mean, too much darker than the hull color on the neck, because I want that to be really subtle. I don't want it to detract from the engineering hull. So I'm just going to put a little bit more on there and just rub it around a little bit. Oh, and oh, by the way, you want to do pastels on a really rough and flat surface. You don't want to do this on a Coda Future. You'll hate yourself. So you want it to be flat and a little bit on the rough side. So
My company paid $1 trillion to find this place and to bring
now,
it.
normally,
You raise the monies yourself,
I will
Mr. Holloway.
I will pull off the mask as soon as I do a little a rectangle or a panel,
And that makes you an employee.
and shoot it with clear, so I don't mess it up. However, since I'm doing a grid layout on the dorsal or on the neck, I can't do that.
You wanted a true believer.
However, I do know that this color is where I want it to be because I tested it on the other part, so I could actually just go ahead and lay out my grid pattern very carefully, and then shoot the clear on it afterwards. And let me show you what I use, guys. This stuff is
Ancient language.
the bomb.
Their roots.
Now, I'm an airbrush person,
Communicate with them. Provided
but let's face it, a bottle of Model Master Flat Clear acrylic is pretty damn expensive.
they call it thesis.
There it is, people. This stuff is amazing, and I can probably do 3 of these big enterprise kits with 1 can of this. It's acrylic, It goes on really nice. It dries in a matter of seconds, and it's really, really sandable. I get mine at Lowe's. Although I think they might be discontinuing this because I know Walmart pulled it from their shelves, or they're not stocking it anymore. And I'm finding it on Amazon for like 25 bucks a can. So if you see this on the shelf at Walmart, grab you a can and try it, but I guarantee you'll be going back and getting whatever else they got. I cleared them out the other day. I won't say how many I bought, but there's quite a few. So this stuff is good. So what I do is, normally when I do like this haul, is I'll do a square, I'll blow off any residual dust from the chalk, and immediately I will shoot the panel with flat, so I don't mess up the panel, and then I'll proceed on to the next panel. But like I said, on the neck, I'm going to just lay out my grid pattern, and then pull the tape, and shoot it with clear. That's what I'm hoping will work. So, okay, so I got one panel done. I'll go ahead and pull that tape off, and I'm going to go down and do the other end.
Nobody's home.
There is nothing in the desert. And no man.
Simple as that. And I'm just going to do
Just something from a film I like.
this little portion here.
Let's go through that gateway. Reduce airspeed by 100 knots.
And we'll go, and if I want a variation of color on this neck, say if I want it a little darker, I'll just put more chalk on here to make it a little bit darker.
Steady, boys. There.
So,
What are you doing?
Dr. Holloway, why don't you take a seat?
blow that off, and I'll pull this.
Building straight lines. Starboard side, this valley, Captain.
All right, now I'm probably going to go
Wouldn't be any good if I couldn't do that. Let's do a bell.
opposite on the next one, and a little bit further over.
1 mile per bow.
1 mile per bow.
Engage landing sequence.
Just be careful when you're doing it, when you can't shoot clear after each one. Be careful not to mess up where you've already laid down chalk.
2. Easy does it.
And I use chalk for weathering because it's very forgiving. If you mess up, you dampen a cotton swab and you wipe it off. If you're airbrushing and you don't catch, if you shoot, especially if you airbrush with enamel when you're weathering, you're done. You're going to let it dry and you're going to sand it and you're going to repaint your chalk. So I couldn't recommend using chalk pastels enough. Okay, let's go on to the next line here.
Captain, would you please tell the survey team to suit up and meet us in the airlock?
There's only 6 hours left of daylight. Why don't you leave it till the morning?
Oh, no. It's Christmas, Captain, and I want to open my presents.
Fucking A.
Boy, you're coming with us.
I'd be delighted.
All right. And we'll carefully pull that up.
Hey, Jackson. What's that for?
Expedition security. My job's to make sure everybody's.
And I can barely see.
This is a
Those
scientific
panels.
expedition. No weapons.
I mean, I can barely make them out, but when you shoot it with clear, that's when it gets to the correct shade.
I beg your pardon.
Just a little darker than the hull color. And I didn't figure that out until I practiced that on
Because you people are more comfortable
the spare piece. So had I not done that, I probably would have went way too dark.
by the suit. It would
But when you shoot it with clear, it brings out a little bit more color.
not too close, I hope.
All right, let's do this one. This is a process that takes a long time, but there is none that is more rewarding if you take your time and do this. I'm tell you what, back on my soapbox, here we go. I'm so sick of seeing everybody do this ship and just slap gray on it and the markings and call it done. This is a big, big model with a lot of surface area. And if you call yourself a modeler, and if you have any skill whatsoever, then don't do it injustice and just paint this thing gray and throw on markings. This ship deserves a little artist discretion. All right, let's go on to the next panel up here.
Hey, Flackfield.
I'm going to go a little darker on this one.
I want to know if it's natural or somebody put it there, all right?
I can't tell you if it's natural or not, but what I can tell you is...
Just keep rubbing it in. Keep blowing off your excess chalk powder. And we'll pull that. And we'll go on to the front part on this one. Just make sure your lines are pretty straight. This has got to look man-made.
Prometheus? Are you seeing this?
Affirmative. We see it.
You ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay, so you get the idea on this part. Go ahead and take a break here, and I'll come back and do another video when I get the neck on this side completely done and get it clear. And I won't know if I'm going to use some other touch-up colors with the airbrush. I don't know if you can make it out, but here I wanted some color variations back here, so I went with the airbrush, and I put in a couple panels of Model Master neutral gray. I like the color of that. That's what I use to paint my my modern U.S. Navy carriers. It's got a bluish tint to it, like a haze gray that they use on their ships nowadays. And that's my little tribute to Gene Roddenberry, because I know he loved the Navy ships, and which is why we have the color of this Enterprise. And I believe, had the budget been there, and you probably would have seen a paneled ship like this without being remastered, because all you have to do is go to go search and see how modern ships are made,
Let's get a grid of the structure.
and it's hundreds, if not thousands, of these little panels welded.
These pops will find
And
pops. Yeah.
so this is why I think this is a more realistic thing, and why I think the people at the Smithsonian really dropped the ball and didn't keep going on the weathering on that. But anyway, I'm going to finish the neck,
Prometheus.
and I'll put up another video of that section finished. Then I'm going to research
Copy that.
and what I should do for the pylons as well. But I just can't let those stay clean. There's got to be some type of paneling done on that. So
I'll be there.
see what we can come up with, and we'll be back.